Thanks, Alistair. I feel like that was half my introduction already done. Um, yeah, I heard there was a party and I wasn't invited. And rather than talk about Boscia, I thought I'd spend my 15 minutes singing Celine Dion, You Raised Me Up, to help restore the fragile constitutions. But no, Boscia it is. Um, or as I like to think of it, it was getting stared at by giraffe constantly. So as Alistair mentioned, we had a bit of a case study, and this is the tree that sort of really represents what's going on in the landscape. One of the older bossias there, judging by the stem diameter, definitely the one with the biggest stem circumference. And you can sort of see these lower dead branches completely grazed of all leaves. These ones in this section here, not looking happy, um, considering that this bit here in the middle, in the upper reaches, is what Boscia leaves are supposed to look like. And this is sort of the tree that represents the question of what exactly are the giraffe doing. So there are extralimital giraffe in the landscape, um, frowning and staring, but also looking very nicely padded. Um, so they're definitely having a cushy life. There's no predators on these farms, lots of water sources, yeah, and as I said, extralimital. Um, a brief overview of the study site. We've got, this is Kristen's Animals Are Free farm. It's a completely unmanaged area with giraffe, and then right next door there's a farm, game farm without giraffe, a section of a private game reserve with giraffe, this section here without giraffe, and then another private, hunting game farm with giraffe, and then this special little area in green, same part of this farm, but I'll get back to that a little bit later. And then the land usage history, it used to be old goat and sheep farming lands. Up until about the 70s, this farm still had quite a fair number of goats on it. They started with 4 giraffe in 1988 or so, 98, and through a great deal of brother-uncle fathering and inbreeding, managed to get up to 50 giraffe on this property of land. This one here, they started with about 4, got up to about 15, and those first introductions were around 2010, 2011. And then on this one, 2013, they started with 10 giraffe, and that one also got up to about just under 50 last year. This is my my walking. It's 198 kilometers in total. That 73 of which was done off the road. So what we did is I drove along, and any little bossia that I saw, dead or alive, went up to it, did a photo survey, which is just for record keeping, and we surveyed these trees visually to get an idea of their vitality status, and then also took a stem circumference. And this is across all of those farms that I mentioned earlier. The actual visual assessment was a bit of a mishmash compilation of previous studies that had done visual vitality canopy assessments, mishmashed by Alistair and Rob Skelton. So the first trait was canopy volume, and basically we converted canopy volume in all of our visual vitality traits into a 1 to 5 score. So there's a 1, 3, and 5, basically looking at how does the canopy look in terms of a X, Y, and Z dimension. Obviously, very little, moderate could be bigger, and then 5 starting to look quite happy, and that was all done relative to the diameter of the stem. The next one was the proportion of branches with leaves, basically zoomed out and a little bit closer for you, how many of the branches have got leaves, regardless of their leaf score, and how happy the leaf looks, how much of that surface area has got leaves on it. And then getting into some of the fine detail, the leaf and branchlet intactness, again, 1, 3, and 5, very poor leaf. You're looking at intense browsing pressure here, just a couple of leaves right up against the stem. For number 3, they actually start growing a little bit further, but they're still very clustered around the stem. And then for 5, they start spreading out all nice and happy. Additional things that we recorded but didn't put into the visual vitality health index was the extent of insect damage, basically completely defoliated. Here you can see the yellow sections. They were new leaves that were eaten by caterpillars. And then a 5, 1 or 2 munches, but still looking quite happy. And then also another additional trait was the extent of browsing damage. This is a bit of a silly one because pretty much everything looks like this in nature. There is occasionally below the 1.8 browse line where the kudu can sort of reach up to. There's a couple of branches, and then there's no 5 because it just was never seen. The results themselves, so you had, just going back to the, this is a little pairwise comparison there, and then between the north and south sections of this farm, very much skewed. We summed the health index scores, the individual ones, so we have a minimum of 3 going up to a maximum of 15, 15 being a very, very happy, healthy plant. And you can see on the without giraffe side just how much that distribution is skewed from the upper regions to the lower regions where the giraffe are there. But a little bit more importantly, dead trees made up 4% of the population without giraffe and 28% of those farms which had giraffe. And then this is just a map. Red diamonds for dead trees, green circles for happy trees, and red circles for the unhappy trees. And that would be the fence line between the giraffe farm and the no giraffe farm. Again, same thing. Have very, very happy trees without giraffe. With giraffe, things aren't looking too good. And a 2 to 27% difference in the mortality percentage. And then this is the 2010 area where giraffe were introduced in 2010, and then the giraffe-free zone. And then this is that special farm I mentioned with the north and south sections. So there's no reason for the giraffe to not be here. And you can sort of see it. We found this out a little bit afterwards that the giraffe don't go there. I was incredibly confused walking around this area, seeing what I expected to be very much a mirror comparison to find more of a giraffe-free zone, although with notably reduced canopy scores, but very healthy and happy branch and leaf intactness, bumping the scores up, but also still with the very low mortality compared to the much higher vitality there. So this is complete. I mean, there's no fences going through preventing them, but the farmer himself has said giraffe in that southern section is just an incredibly rare occurrence. He has put camera traps up there, and he does know what's going on. He's very much aware of what's happening on his land. So there's something, but yeah, this is a comparison of just of all the data side by side, and that's pretty much it.